Good morning, guys. Well, good morning for me anyways. It is a beautiful day out here in Sonoma County, and we got a pretty nice little project here. We're going to be, main focus or initial focus will be installing a new septic system here. It's going to be a mound type septic system, so it's going to consist of a sand bed with a gravel middle bed and septic tank, sump tank, pump, control panels going up over here. And then when we're done with that, we're going to be stripping the grass off of this area here, and we're going to be making a little temporary driveway for him and a little pad right here for him. At a later point in time, we're going to be coming back through and substantiating this grading work. We're going to be over excavating down and rebuilding this pad back up and lifts for a future ADU that's going here. But for now, he just wants a real temporary little driveway, and they're going to focus their funds on remodeling this historic building. So that's the purpose of the septic system here. It's not so much that the septic system for this place was failed or bad, it's just they're doing a pretty substantial remodel, and to support that remodel in this county, they're requiring this new septic system to be installed. So that's what we're going to get started on. At least today I'm going to be digging and setting the new tanks here, and I got to get to it. It's about 9 o'clock and the tanks are going to be here in about 3 hours. So I got my Kubota 8-ton excavator. So yeah, let's get to work. All right, so I'm just taking a few minutes to verify some details on the plans. This is the layout that we're looking at. Here's the little gate that I walked through initially. This is where the excavator was sitting. This is the tank location and the mound bed. And so I'm just gonna verify that these stakes are accurate just by pulling out the long tape and doing a quick measurement. We got tank corner, tank corner, tank corner, tank corner. So they've given me 4 corners for both tanks. So it'll be tank end to end on this downhill descent. So yep, just take some measurements here and verify this before I get going. the tank is here. Got our tank hole smoothed out down in there. It's down there raking it out, letting this battery charge. And Brandon's here. Be backing in. We'll see how this goes. The dirt's kind of soft. If it doesn't work, made a little side ramp right here. If that doesn't work, I'll have to track roll it some. But he's going for it. He's slipping a little bit. He's getting it though. I think that's going to be close enough. So the idea when we're backing the truck in is that on this style truck, we want to get that rail somewhat over the center of the hole. This truck's pretty nice because this whole rail assembly pivots right off the very back main beam. So it can actually swing the tank right or left a little bit, which is handy. And then if you really get in a pinch, he's got his stabilizers. He can jack up one side of the truck more than the other and kind of finesse the tank even more. So we'll see if he's happy with it. Watch this thing go in the ground. This is the sump tanks on the back, so we're going to put that one in first and then reposition the truck probably up here straight back and get the septic tank in there. And they're really nice and level. Let's shoot it, see how we did. Can't ask for better than that. Pretty happy with that. What do you guys think? You think that's good? I think it's good. I'm gonna call it good. Well, now it's reading level. So there, it's dead level. It depends on where you hold the stick, but either way, I'm super happy with it. So get this laser turned off, and I'm gonna grab some lunch. All right, guys, so the tanks are in, and what I like to do is get out all my supplies before I actually open a can of glue and or start cutting pipe. So I got my T, my strap, my multi-purpose glue, because we're going to be gluing ABS into that T. That's for the inlet side. Then on the outlet side, I got a strap. I got some more pipe. I got a strap for the inlet of the sump. I got my 245s for my drop down. I got my inlet T for the sump tank with the coupling for the extension to get that pipe too close to the bottom of the tank hole. I have my splice box over there. And I'm going to get these tanks plumbed together, and then I'm going to drill out the riser for the sump tank, and then I'm going to mix epoxy, and I'm going to epoxy the risers on, And while I still have some epoxy that hasn't set up yet, I'm going to go ahead and epoxy the splice box flange into the side of the riser. So that is the efficient way I've found to do it. Get the tanks plumbed together first, then get the risers epoxied on, and while you still have epoxy, epoxy anything else that needs epoxying. All right, let's get to it. All right, guys. Tanks are plumbed in, it's capped off there. I plumbed in between the two tanks. Whoop. I plumbed in between the two tanks there. You can see that drop down using the 245-degree elbows. All the rubber grommets are strapped with the stainless steel straps. And I mixed the epoxy, installed the risers, and also installed the external splice box. Level. I checked them both ways. All of them are looking beauteous. And my level's dirty. I can see it, but sorry if you can't. Anyhow, so it's pretty good progress today. Started at 9 o'clock and it's almost 4:25. I did walk into town and grab some water. That took me about 20 minutes or so. Bumped into some old friends, but anyways, it's about 6 hours. Dig, set tanks, install risers, plumb between them. So that's what's possible, you know, if you're scooting along. The digging was really tough. It was like a really compacted sand. And when I was digging through it, it came apart like sand on the beach. It's pretty crazy, but it was super tough digging. It wasn't rock, but it was close to it. And the tank truck showed up a little bit late, which worked out perfect for me. And got these tanks set, so that's good progress today. Tomorrow I'm going to work on backfilling around the tanks and jetting in the soil and plumbing in the sump pump and all that. So I'm going to call it a day for now and get things buttoned up and get on out of here. Alright guys, next I'm going to show you how easy it is to build your sump package with this Orenco Systems Biotube pump vault. This is a 68-inch tall pump vault, which works out really good for me because it can rest at the bottom of the tank, and the very top of this Biotube pump vault is just above the top of the concrete lid portion of the tank. And what I like about that is that this can be pretty well supported with a couple conduit pipes, which you'll see me install here shortly, and it just sits nicely within this opening of the tank. So let's get started. So usually inside these there's a couple of components that you got to dump out. All right, so step by step, real quick, I'm gonna take this handle, one of them, it's an extra large Phillips size bit, and take off that short stainless steel screw, and I'm simply gonna slide this through there and then reattach that screw. And you can, as needed, choke these screws up tighter to this green plastic here if you really want to dial in this pipe and not have it move around on you. Get the other one installed. My audience today is the chickens, I think. I think that's them cheering me on, I'm not sure. Alright. So inside this Biotube pump vault is the filter cartridge. This particular cartridge is an 18-inch tall filter cartridge. And you have some different options here from Orenco. You can get a filter cartridge that's 24 inches tall. If you do that with a taller filter cartridge, it would also mean that your floats, where you set them inside this pump vault, would be up higher. And what that does really in the end is it limits the amount of storage capacity in your sump tank if the power goes out. So keeping your floats down a little bit lower for this particular system, I think, is the right move. So we went with the slightly shorter filter cartridge, 18-inch. And that'll keep our lowest float in here, the pump off float, at about 24 inches per plan. So I don't need it out right now, I'm just gonna slide it back in. So there's a little ball water release mechanism at the bottom of this. And it's just nice to make sure that there's not dirt or grass or twigs stuck up in the bottom of it, that it's free and clear. And we're gonna go ahead and just drop it down into the tank like so. So I'll show you what this looks like. Just like that. So you could see that these little support conduits do a little bit to help kind of keep this unit where it needs to be. For this particular precast tank, this the opening in there pretty well cradles this this pump vault. If this was a taller tank, then these conduits here would act as a hanger system for the pump vault and would literally suspend the bottom of the pump vault off the bottom of the tank. But right now this pump vault is sitting on the bottom of the tank, and I see a piece of plastic like an instruction manual way down in the pump side of this vault, so I got to pull that out, get that plastic out of there. But next step will be unpackaging the pump and putting on the hose and valve assembly onto the end of the pump. It's a hot one today. 105. That's hot for me. I'm just going to take the pump out. Good practice is just to verify that the pump model and voltage matches what you intend to use on your plans or for your project. So on this Orenco pump, we have the model right here. It's a PF300512-20. This particular pump is a 230 volt single phase pump, and it's good to go. It has an 1.25 inch outlet. So inside your pump box, there's a couple stickers that are going to come with the pump. I like to put these stickers on the inside of the control panel. I'll just save these off to the side for now. And that tells any future service person working on the septic system, or who maybe needs to replace the pump, kind of gives them that information. That's hopefully accurate, that that's the pump that's inside that they would need to order. So here's the 1.25 inch hose and valve assembly, and the main thing I want to point out is that this is going to come pre-assembled. However, all these joints are really loose, and all these nipples and street 90s just have a very slight amount of thread compound on them. And so my recommendation to you guys is, when you get it, either A, tighten it up really good, or B, disassemble each joint and apply thread tape and pipe compound, and reassemble it and tighten each of these down. However, you don't want to over tighten these male fittings into the female fittings, so be careful of doing that. They can crack, so you don't want to over pressurize them as you're tightening them in there. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble and apply some more material to these and reassemble. So on this system, it's pretty low pressure. We're really not pumping up at all here at this site. So all these joints that I've kind of redone are just all hand tight, and you know, I'm applying a pretty good grip to it, but wasn't necessary to break out a wrench on this one. All right, let's drop this thing down. There it is. So we got the pump in here, and next thing we're going to want to do is plan out where to drill our perforation through the riser. And you got to get that figured out. You know, you might have some clearance issues from the bottom of your riser lid. So I think about right there is going to be pretty good for me. It's above the pump vault top. And I'm just going to make some marks on the riser with a permanent marker. And it gives me a rough idea where to drill. All right, take a little bit of lubrication.
Nice and tight, that's what we want. It's gonna be the best seal and be more waterproof if it's nice and snug. So now what I have to do is make a mark on this PVC pipe where to cut it so that I can fit this assembly down in place. So I'm going to make a mark right here at this lip. And I'm just going to make sure the pump is sitting nice and flat on the bottom before I make this cut. I don't want to accidentally cut it too short or too long. So that's good. So this is the pump standpipe directly coming up from the pump. And I just made this little mark here on the pipe. That would be matching the tip of this. And I'm going to go ahead and hold it side by side and then make my next mark. The next mark I make is where I'm actually going to cut the pipe, which is going to be down here by this 90. So now I'm prepared to glue that on. Using a clear primer today. What's kind of nice about these hose and valve assemblies is that you can achieve a lot of different variations with how you set these up. And this is how I'm setting it up on this particular project. Sometimes I do it differently. I just had to rotate this a little bit and get this swiveled over to this side. It was over here, but these latches were interfering with the valve, so I changed it up a little bit, and that's it right there. So in the future, on the outside of this riser, of course, the pipe would be glued to a PVC pipe extending to the mound. And that somewhat is going to make this little assembly, at least right here, somewhat rigid. And so assuming that's rigid, you know, the question is, will you be able to unlatch this and pull this down and get it out from underneath that? And the answer is yes. You can spin this and you can crimp this and pull it down and get it out from underneath there. And there is a little play in here because this is threaded down here, 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 and here. So there is, even though it's going to be glued on the outside and be relatively rigid, there is still ways to finesse things around and get them to move as needed. But this assembly, just the way I have it set up right here, the main goal for me with this is that I'm keeping this area clear right above the filter so that if somebody needs to service this filter, they can pull it straight up and they're not going to have interference with, you know, this hose and valve assembly coming across it anywhere. So making it easy for servicing is kind of the priority here when plumbing this package together. And so that's how we got it set up. This valve is going to be out of the way. These latches are able to be opened without it hitting the side of the riser. The valve is able to be open and closed without that hitting the side of the riser. So that's looking good. I'm happy with how this turned out. And so I wanted to point out just like the top view, looking straight down inside the sump tank riser. You can see our pipe stubbing out. Notice how the ball valve is kicked at about a 45-degree angle. That keeps it nice and clear for opening and closing. This 90 right here was kicked out at an opposing 45-degree angle to line up our pump straight down into the pump vault. And that also puts our cord coming out right towards the splice box right there. And I can easily rotate this pump filter cartridge like so that our float standpipe is going to come down almost directly below the splice box. It just makes it a cleaner install. It's going to allow our pump float cords to come up and be coiled up nicely right here without those cords crossing over the entire riser span. So yeah, this filter cartridge rotates however you need it to. All right, I'm going to put on these floats onto the float stand. Okay guys, so I got the floats on the float stand, and a couple things I wanted to point out. I got each one of these float collars positioned in the same manner where the screws are all on the same side. Not necessary, but just something I like to do. And then also, if you notice that each one of these float collars is rotated at a slightly different angle from one another, so that as the water elevation raises and lowers, these floats won't interfere with one another when they're going up and down. That's a key tip for you guys right there if you're doing this. If you have floats in your system and you're setting them up, really good to keep them from getting hung up on one another, because you could burn a pump up like that. And if you burn a pump up, then it might not be pumping and the house could get flooded with sewage, and then you'll be into it for $250,000 in repairs on the house. So don't let that happen. So anyways, got those floats nicely done up on there. I got these zip ties still kind of long in case the engineer and I decide to adjust these floats anymore. We can do that, or I'll cut these off and redo them. I'll be sure to snip these off though all the way before we close the system up after inspection. So what we have is we have about a 5-inch dose. It is 20 gallons per inch, so that's about a 100-gallon dose that we're going for. And we have 4 inches between the pump on and the alarm, and then we have 10 inches from our alarm float to the invert elevation of the tank. That gives us about 200 gallons of storage after the alarm goes off. And the hope is that if an alarm goes off and there's a problem with the pump, that property owner has about 200 gallons of storage, which essentially is time for them to get a service technician out to make repairs or do whatever's needed to get the system working. So got all that done up. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down in here. In addition, I went ahead and marked the ends of these cords, color coordinated them for myself to know which is which. We have the bottom float, the middle float, and the high level alarm float. So I'm going to go ahead and put these wires on through into the splice box. I like to run my pump cord through a bottom gas tight fitting. And I'm just going to pull out about 7 or 8 inches worth. And then I'm going to tighten this down. So this cord grip or gas tight fitting helps reduce or prevent gases from inside your sump tank from getting into the conduits and up into your control panel. Obviously there's electricity in your control panel and there's flammable gases in your septic tank and sump tank potentially, so you want to limit those gases from getting into your control panel. Take my bottom float, come up through the bottom over here. Get that tightened down. My middle float. That's the pump on float, essentially. And my high water alarm. And you know, the way I do this, I try to do it the same every single time. And that just helps me out if I have to come back to a job and diagnose anything. I almost already know what float is which based on where I've ran it into my splice box. So creating your own technique for that, maybe it's, you know, different. Obviously it could be whatever you want, but you know, I've made kind of my own standard and it makes things easier for me. So a past inspector that I used to work with a lot, like when I was younger, just a kid. His name's Dave Donovan. Sadly, he passed away recently from cancer. And Dave was one of my favorite county inspectors by far. He was just a cool cat. He'd come out to the job and look things over, but one of the things Dave Donovan always loved to do is pull on my wires, you know, like that one's loose, see, I haven't tightened it yet. And he would pull on my wires and man, he'd bust me right and left when I was younger. And he taught me to get these guys nice and snug. But it's funny how each inspector, you know, has kind of different things that they look for. Every inspector is a little bit different, and you have to learn, you know, what they're really looking for. Of course, you want to do a perfect job all the way around. You don't want to just do what that particular inspector is going to be looking for, but you learn what they're looking for and you learn to make sure that that's ready for inspection. So Dave, this one's for you, okay? All these are super tight, buddy. Hope you're doing good up there. What I want to do next is get all these wires coiled up nicely. As nice as I can. It's always a little bit of an interesting task here. Okay, what I'm going to do is just put a zip tie around this real quick. Okay. And then this Velcro strap comes with this splice box. And that's what we're going to use to secure these cords up in here. Just like that. So that's it, guys. Well, almost. I gotta plumb these 1-inch extension pipes up real quick. Let's do that. Whoop. All right, so we got my T-handle extensions on. This is looking really complete right now. Valve is all operational, no interference from lifting the filter cartridge straight up and out of there. Our float stand assembly, it's all assembled. Floats are all installed at their proper elevation and rotated so they don't interfere with one another. All of our wires are coiled up nicely. All the wires are nice and snug and up tight, and not drooping down into our Biotube pump vault. What else? These are strapped. Gas tights are tight. Looking awesome, looking good. This is what we want right here. Got this Zabel filter I could install really quick. One Zabel Effluent filter. Okay. So that's our filter cartridge. T-handle, we need to get an extension pipe on there, but let me grab my torpedo level. All right, so it looks like, so I just used some transition glue, ABS to PVC, glued that guy right on there, got the cartridge leveled up. All right guys, so that's what the Zabel filter looks like with this extension handle on it. And it just drops in like so. That's it, and that handle should clear the bottom of the riser. Sump installed. So I started out here around 12:30 or so. It's almost 3:30 now. So in about 3 hours, I was able to drop in that pump package, do the one perforation, set the floats, put on the effluent filter. So not spending a full day out here. I spent a good part of the morning running around doing other things and going into town to get some of these parts. So anyways, that's going to be it for today. And next part of this project will be scraping the grass off of the mound system area, ripping that sand bed, and placing sand.